The night my boyfriend turned me into a party prize, I was carrying the cake he had asked me to bake. Mason Reed had texted me at 4 that afternoon. Bring the lemon cake to the Beaumont tonight. The one with the burnt sugar on top. We should talk. We had not spoken in 5 days. Not since Delaney Price came home to Charleston, and Mason began finding reasons to stay out until sunrise. I read we should talk as an apology, so I spent 3 hours zesting lemons and burning my thumb on a springform pan. I put on the white silk dress Mason liked, pinned my hair up, and carried his favorite cake to the roof of his newest hotel. The party had already started. Blue lights moved under the rooftop pool. Champagne bottles flashed in silver buckets. A dozen men in dinner jackets stood at one end of the water, holding bright plastic rings. At the other end, 6 women in swimsuits laughed and posed. Mason was explaining the rules. 1 throw each, he said. Whoever you ring is your date for the after-party. His friends cheered. Delaney sat on the pool ledge in a red dress, her bare feet moving through the water. She had grown up next door to Mason, followed him through every school dance, and left for Europe the year he started dating me. She had been back for 9 days. Mason had slept at home twice. I set the cake on a table. You asked me to come. He glanced over as if he had forgotten. Delaney had not. Nora, she smiled brightly. You should play. I'm terrible at throwing. Her friends laughed before she did. I didn't mean throwing. Delaney pointed to the women in the pool. I meant you should be a prize. The roof went quiet in small ripples. Everyone there knew 2 things about me. My family had lost everything before I finished college, and Mason had rescued me afterward. Only Mason knew the third. I was terrified of deep water. When I was 12, a rip current off Sullivan's Island pulled me under. My father found me face down beyond the breakers. After that, even water over my shoulders could close my throat. I looked at Mason. Tell her! He picked up a neon ring and turned it in his hand. It's a game, Nora! I can't swim! The pool is 4 feet deep. Delaney lifted one shoulder. Unless you've gotten shorter since college. More laughter. Mason walked to a cabana, picked up a black swimsuit, and tossed it toward me. The damp fabric struck the cake box before falling at my feet. Go change, he said. Don't make this into something ugly. I stared at him. 9 years earlier, Mason had sold the vintage Porsche his grandfather gave him and borrowed the rest from his trust to buy my parents' house at a foreclosure auction. He had paid my final year of tuition when the bankruptcy estate froze every account with our name on it. His friends called him my second life. His mother called me the most expensive stray her son had ever brought home. For 9 years I had thanked him in every way I knew. I cooked around his schedule. I smiled through his mother's jokes. I stopped painting when he said the art world was a hobby for people who could afford failure. Apparently, gratitude now required getting into a pool so his friends could throw rings at my body. I picked up the swimsuit and placed it on the cabana chair. Enjoy your party. I had taken 3 steps when Delaney came after me. Nora. Wait, I was kidding. Her hand landed between my shoulder blades. Then she pushed. The sky tipped. My purse slid from my arm. I hit the pool hard enough to lose my breath. Cold water closed over my head. For a few seconds, I was 12 again. There was salt in my mouth, and no ground beneath my feet. I clawed upward, found air, then found the pool floor with one shoe. People were shouting, but no one reached for me. My silk dress had turned transparent. The skirt floated around my waist until I dragged it down with both hands. Delaney crouched at the edge. Oh my God, you slipped. She was still smiling. Mason, I said. He stood 10 feet away, his expression unreadable. Delaney grabbed the rings from his hands. Everybody throw before she climbs out. The first ring struck my shoulder. The second splashed beside my face. Then the whole roof seemed to decide that Mason's silence was permission. Pink, green, and yellow rings flew through the blue light. One caught my wrist. Another landed around my waist and drifted away. A green ring dropped over my head and settled around my neck. The man who had thrown it was Owen Blake, a junior broker who spent every read party trying to make Mason remember his name. Owen went pale. Mason, man. I wasn't trying to. Mason lit a cigarette. The flame briefly sharpened his face. You won her, he said. Take her. No one laughed. I took the ring from my neck. My hands had stopped shaking. That frightened me more than the water. I climbed the pool steps, pulled a towel around my shoulders, and walked directly to Owen. Your car or mine? I asked. His mouth opened. Behind me, glass shattered. Mason had crushed his champagne flute against the table. He crossed the roof, wrapped a second towel around me, and pulled it closed with both fists. You're not going anywhere with him. He won me. I looked up at Mason. Those were your rules. Enough. Don't be so emotional. It was only a game. The anger left his face so quickly, it looked like fear. Then he lifted me over his shoulder and carried me out while everyone watched. By the time Mason's driver reached our apartment on King Street, I was shivering too hard to unlock my seatbelt. Mason carried me upstairs, peeled the wet dress from my skin, and put me into one of his t-shirts. He found the thermometer, cursed at the number, and tucked 2 blankets around me. For an hour, he became the man I remembered. He dried my hair. He made chicken broth badly and burned the first pan. When I refused the medicine, he sat on the edge of the bed and held the glass to my lips. I'm sorry, he said at last. For which part? His jaw tightened. Delaney should not have pushed you, and you should not have told Owen to take me. I knew he wouldn't. That makes it better? I was angry. At me? He became very interested in folding the corner of my blanket. His phone began to vibrate on the nightstand. Delaney's name lit the screen. Mason declined the call. It rang again, then again. On the 4th call, he answered. Delaney did not bother saying hello. Come take me home. My father's furious that I came with you and left with a rideshare. Ask Owen. I don't want Owen. Her voice sharpened. I want you. Mason glanced at me. I had watched that glance for 9 days. It was the moment he measured my pain against her demand and decided how much of mine I would tolerate. Go, I said. Nora, she wants you. He stayed long enough to make leaving look difficult. Then he set the medicine on the table and left. The following evening, I went alone to his grandfather's 75th birthday dinner at the Carolina Yacht Club. I should have stayed home. My fever had broken, but my skin still hurt and a bruise spread across my hip where I had struck the pool wall. Mason's mother had called twice to remind me that families did not advertise private trouble. I understood the instruction. Delaney could push me into a pool in front of 60 people. I was not allowed to look unhappy at dinner. Near the dessert table, I heard Delaney before I saw her. Mason has always had a rescue complex, she told 3 women in jeweled dresses. A bankrupt orphan with big eyes? Of course he brought her home. One woman murmured my name in warning. Delaney ignored her. He says she's grateful at least. Quiet in public, quiet in bed, just very, very grateful. My hand closed around the stem of a water glass. I stepped around the flower arrangement. Did Mason tell you that before or after he left my bed to drive you home? Delaney's smile flickered. I was trying to defend you. Try it without discussing my parents or my sex life. You're overreacting again. She leaned closer. Everybody knows what you are, Nora. A woman who stayed because she couldn't afford to leave. I threw the water in her face. It was not dignified. It felt wonderful. Delaney shrieked. Mason reached us as mascara began to run down her cheeks. He took in the empty glass, her wet dress, and my expression. Apologize, he said. Ask what she said. I don't care what she said. You made a scene at my grandfather's dinner. Delaney pressed herself against his arm. Please don't fight because of me. We are not fighting because of you, I said. We're finished because of him. Mason stared at me. I had threatened to leave before. I had packed bags and let him unpack them. We both knew the ritual. He lowered his voice. Go home. We'll talk when you calm down. No. One small word, and the familiar script between us stopped working. Mason's grandfather was watching from across the room. So were his parents, Delaney's father, and half the hospitality board Mason hoped to lead one day. Mason hated losing control in front of an audience. He turned to Delaney. You wanted to know whether I would ever choose you? Her eyes widened. He took her left hand and removed the emerald signet ring from his own little finger. "Marry me." The room gasped. Delaney began crying before he finished the sentence. Mason slid the ring onto her finger while looking directly at me. "He expected me to break. Instead, I put my glass on the table. "Congratulations," I said. "You deserve each other." I walked out before anyone could see that I was bleeding where my fingernails had cut my palm. 5 days later, Mason and Delaney's engagement photographs appeared on every digital billboard owned by Reed Hospitality. In one, she wore a pink gown and rested her hand against his chest. In another, he kissed her forehead beneath a canopy of live oaks. The caption read, "A Charleston love story comes home." I recognized the live oaks. They were in my parents' garden. I drove to Whitaker House so fast I left my phone on the roof of my car. It slid off somewhere near Broad Street. I did not notice. My mother had painted the dining room ceiling herself. My father had built shelves into the back parlor so she could teach free Saturday art classes. For the first 18 years of my life, the house smelled like linseed oil, lemon polish, and whatever my father had burned for dinner. After their development company collapsed, the bank took it. Mason bought it at auction. He told me I would always have a home. Now 2 event trucks blocked the driveway. Pink fabric covered the front columns. Workers were drilling a temporary bar into my father's library floor. Buckets of white roses sat on the porch, and an enormous gold monogram hung over the door. M&D. Inside, my mother's old studio had become a bridal dressing room. Someone had leaned our family portrait against the wall. The glass was cracked across my father's face. I dropped to my knees and pulled the photograph away from a box of candles. "Careful," Delaney said behind me. "The frame is probably full of mold." She wore white shorts, a silk blouse, and Mason's emerald ring. "Get out of my house," she laughed. "Your name is not on the deed." "Where is Mason?" Picking up my dress. "He does sweet things when he's in love." She nudged a rolled-up rug with her shoe. "I told him I wanted a wedding with history. He gave me yours." I stood so quickly the room tilted. "You can have the hotel. You can have every billboard in Charleston. Why this house?" Delaney's expression softened into something worse than cruelty. Satisfaction. "Because it is the one thing you thought he would never give me." The front door opened. Mason entered carrying a white garment bag. His steps slowed when he saw me. "Nora, what are you doing here?" I pointed to the cracked portrait. "You promised this place would be safe. It is safe. There is a bar bolted into my father's floor. It's temporary." He handed the garment bag to Delaney. "You're being emotional about a building nobody has lived in for years. Then hold the wedding anywhere else." The invitations went out. "I don't care." His eyes hardened. "The deed says Mason Reed. I paid the taxes, the insurance, and the restoration bills. You do not get to arrive after all these years and tell me what I can do with my property." He was right about the deed. "That was the ugliest part. He saw my silence and mistook it for surrender. Apologize to Delaney for last night," he said. "Mean it. I'll consider transferring the house to you after the wedding." Delaney smiled behind him. Mason had once saved this house because he could not bear to see me homeless. Now he was holding it over my head until I knelt for the woman who pushed me into a pool. I stopped trying to make him remember the boy who had once saved it. I tucked the family portrait under my arm. "You keep telling me not to be emotional," I said, "so I won't be." I took the apartment key from my purse and placed it on the garment bag. "We're done," he gave a short laugh. "You don't mean that. It's only a breakup, Mason. Don't make it into something ugly." His face emptied. I walked past him. He followed me onto the porch and caught my wrist. "You think you can punish me by disappearing for a week? I'm not punishing you. You have no job. Your savings would not cover 3 months in that apartment. Every hotel, design firm, and gallery in this city does business with my family." His grip tightened. "Where exactly are you going to go?" Before the pool, that question would have stopped me. I looked down at his hand until he released me. "Somewhere you are not." I carried my broken family portrait out through a tunnel of pink fabric.